We've just left Great Falls and we're on our way to Banff National Park, and we just went through the Canadian border.
Oh Canada, our home and native land. Yeah, we're in Canada.
And it is pouring with rain.
Yeah, we just went through customs. She said, why are you coming to Canada? And I was tempted to say, we were thinking the same thing. It's absolutely bucketing it down.
Dreadful.
So we have another about 4 hours drive to Banff. The weather looks pretty bad there, but apparently Banff and that area is beautiful. I'm Mike.
Hi, and I'm Fiona.
We're a newly retired expat British couple living in the USA. We're on a mission to visit all 63 US national parks. Please mash the like and subscribe button to follow along on our journey.
So, here we are. We just did our longest stint of camping, 9 nights in 4 separate locations: Badlands, Wind Cave, Tetons and Yellowstone. Last night we broke our streak with a night in a hotel, but not just any hotel. Oh no, it was the fantastic O'Hare Inn, Great Falls, Montana. Not that the O'Hare is some fancy luxury hotel, it's actually rather basic and inexpensive. But it's been maintained as a homage to the 1950s America. And here is our room. Oh my gosh, what is it going to look like?
It's 1950s retro. Look at this. Newly refurbished apparently to look like the 1950s. Oh wow, look at the picture of the Sip and Dip and O'Hare Hotel on the wall. And all-time clock and record player with some vinyl.
Oh my gosh.
What is it? 20 grand years of country. Hey, we're gonna have so much fun. Even better than the 1950s aesthetic at the hotel. The hotel is home to one of the greatest dive bars in the world, the Sip and Dip cocktail bar. It has a live mermaid swimming behind the bar. Check this out.
Now we've looked at the weather forecast, and sadly for Banff, it doesn't look very good. Lows in the 30s and highs in the 40s, and rain much of the next 3 days. So mindful of the lessons from our Badlands experience, we've decided to cancel our campsite in Banff, and we've booked an Airbnb for 3 nights near Calgary. So our chances of coming face to face with the Canadian wildlife are much diminished, but we will have a dry, warm bed for the next 3 nights.
Here's Fiona relaxing in our Airbnb with a cup of coffee in the morning. We have a TV, a bedroom with a queen bed. Yeah, sorry, we made it look untidy. It's actually extremely clean and well kept. We have laundry facilities and bathroom. All brand new stuff. Pretty good. Our Airbnb was in Cochrane, on the outskirts of Calgary, about an hour from Banff town and half an hour from Calgary centre. After sunset, I launched the drone to see if we could see the Canadian Rockies from our Airbnb. Today we'll be visiting Banff and driving the famous Icefield Parkway. Banff is supposedly absolutely beautiful, but it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up against the Tetons, which we think is one of the most beautiful parks in the US National Park system. Now, we did have fantastic weather in the Tetons, and Banff promises to be grey, overcast, even rainy this afternoon. So maybe the Tetons has an advantage, but we're looking forward to stacking the two up and seeing which one comes out on top.
So we're going to take some cool photographs and judge for ourselves the relative merits of these two national parks.
Here's Banff town. It's absolutely dwarfed by Mount Rundle behind it, but it is a beautiful little town, and we strolled around the shops for an hour or two. It was immediately clear we wouldn't be alone taking pictures. We had to wait in line for this picture in front of the National Park Administration building, and Lake Louise was surrounded by 1,000 people, including many would-be influencers. We drove on to Emerald Lake, which was quite beautiful and also had the red canoes for rental, and we stopped for a coffee and an ice cream at the lakeside. We then drove the first part of the Icefield Parkway as far as Bow Lake, where the weather cleared momentarily so we could capture these pictures. So that was it for our first day in Banff, but we knew we were coming back in a couple of days. The next day, though, we had a history tour booked in Calgary. We love these walking tours of cities, and this was no exception. We had a great time looking around the sculptures, the architecture, and the fantastic library building in Calgary. The next day we checked out of our Airbnb. Our plan was to drive all the way through Banff and all the way through Jasper to our campsite reserved in Hinton, Alberta. We stopped at many of the sites along the Icefields Parkway. The wind had dropped, so the lakes looked truly magnificent. A surprise pleasure was how many wonderful glaciers and waterfalls there are along the Icefields Parkway. We took a stroll to several beautiful and powerful waterfalls. We hiked a couple of miles in the Shenandoah National Park to see a waterfall like this, But of course in the Rocky Mountains, this is what waterfalls look like. The amazing Athabasca Falls at the end of the Icefields Parkway is staggeringly powerful. We were also treated to several encounters with groups of bighorn sheep as we drove along the parkway.
Okay, so now we've visited Banff, we're going to compare it to the Tetons. So let's talk about how much it cost first. So
Definitely.
In America, the national parks, we can get the senior pass now because Michael's over the age of 62. So that means we've got that forever. So to enter the Tetons National Park, I don't know how much that would cost because it's going to be a lifetime worth of use. But it does also mean that we can get senior discount for camping nights, which means we could stay in the Tetons for $17 a night.
And that was a good campsite for 17. I know that some things were extra, showers were extra, but you know, it had a bare box and a nice pad to camp on. So pretty good campsite.
Ring.
Yeah.
Whereas in Banff, if we'd camped, it would have been $35 a night. And the senior, you have to be 65 to get any senior discount. We also had to pay for parking in Banff itself, which is within the park. And then when we went to Lake Louise, we had to buy some additional parking, which was another $30. So the Tetons was less money.
Well, what about the scenery? Both parks, the Tetons and Banff, are renowned for how beautiful they are. Hard to compare really between the two. They're both achingly beautiful. I suppose Banff is grander and bigger, and you see
many more mountains.
Yeah, it's huge. I don't know whether it's probably as big as Yellowstone, and Tetons looks pretty small, and all the scenery involves a relatively few peaks, just maybe a handful of peaks in the background to most of my pictures anyway, of the lake and of the Mormon Row and the Molten Barn. All use the same handful of mountains in the background, but Banff just stretches for, what is it, like 200 kilometers or maybe 150 miles. It's enormous, and there's a new mountain, a new lake round every corner.
Yep. So you can canoe in the Tetons on the lake there, and you can seem to be able to canoe on all the beautiful lakes here as well. But it's not quite as much money if you're going to canoe in the Tetons.
Yeah, what do you think about the crowds, Fiona? I mean, there's probably fewer people per square mile here in Banff, but they're all concentrated around the edge of Lake Louise and other high spots. So it felt pretty crowded around the most attractive areas of the park and the most accessible areas of the park.
It did. And I really liked the Tetons because it was like you were in the wilderness. Whereas here in Banff, when we went to Lake Louise, there's a massive hotel in the background. There's cabins around Emerald Lake. It's not like you're in the wilderness.
The US national parks are largely wilderness parks in that the National Park Service in the US runs all the properties, visitor centres, lodges and campsites typically in these national parks, whereas it seems in Canadian national parks like Banff, as in UK national parks actually, there's hotels, there's commercial organisations, there's
Starbucks,
pubs, Starbucks,
banks.
pubs, dance halls, banks. I mean, there's just towns in the middle of these national parks, which I'm sure some people love that. They love going shopping in Banff, which you can't really do in any meaningful way in the US national parks. So Fiona, it's been a couple of days since we made that assessment of Tetons versus Banff, but I think we've got to re-look at our conclusions. That travel day through Banff for the second time was pretty spectacular, wasn't it?
It was. Once we got away from the busy beginning of the Icefield Road, we got onto, it was less busy, and the waterfalls and the water features were even more stunning.
Yeah, it wasn't as windy, was it? So the lakes were like glass. They reflected the mountains beautifully. It was sunnier, so the lakes looked even more turquoise than they did the previous time. And we saw a lot of wildlife, didn't we?
We did. We saw some sheep, we saw a bear, and all of these animals were crossing the road or by the roadside.
So I think our comparison of Teton and Banff is pretty difficult to make, isn't it? It's hard to judge one national park against another. They all have their idiosyncrasies, all have their beautiful features, and all have their downsides. What's your conclusion in the end?
My conclusion is that I do prefer it when we're camping in a park, and I do prefer us to be in nature, and I do prefer that we have things close by that we can get to.
Yeah, I agree. We witnessed the wildlife firsthand in Tetons and Yellowstone, and we missed that somewhat by being comfortably in our Airbnb in Calgary. But two great experiences though between Tetons and Banff, and hard to choose which one was better than the other. Well, we'll call that a draw between the Tetons and Banff. But one thing's for sure, we made it to the start of the Alcan Highway at Dawson Creek, British Columbia. And that's where our next adventure begins. Like and subscribe and follow along as we head up to Alaska.